The fluorescent lights of the underground fight club cast harsh shadows across the concrete floor. Maya Reeves stood in the makeshift ring, her right arm hanging useless at her side, the bone fractured into places. Blood dripped from a cut above her eye, mixing with sweat as it traced down her cheek. Across from her, 3 men laughed, their confidence thick in the stale air. They thought they'd won. They thought breaking her dominant arm meant the fight was over. They had no idea who they were dealing with. 2 hours earlier, Maya had walked into this Baltimore warehouse with one purpose. Her sister Emily had disappeared 3 weeks ago, and the police had stopped looking. Emily's last text had included a location pin and 3 words, "Help me please." Now Maya understood she'd walked into something far more dangerous than imagined. An illegal fighting ring that trafficked women for profit. But here's the thing about Navy SEALs, they don't quit ever. And if this story doesn't prove that sometimes one person can take on impossible odds and win, nothing will. Stay with me, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Maya had spent 8 years as a Navy SEAL, one of the few women to complete the brutal training program. She operated in places whose names would never appear in newspapers and learned that the human body and spirit could endure far more than most people believed possible. The instructors at Bud or S had taught her that pain was just information, that injury was just another variable to adapt to, and that the only time you truly lost was when you gave up. The fight had started as a negotiation. Maya offered money, asked questions, tried to find her sister the smart way. But Viktor Kozlov, the man who ran this operation, had seen through her civilian clothes to the warrior beneath. He'd made her an offer: fight 3 of his best men, win, and he'd tell her where Emily was. Lose, and she'd join the other women locked in the basement. Maya had no choice. She agreed. The first fighter went down in 90 seconds with a precisely placed elbow strike. The second, a former MMA fighter, lasted 4 minutes before she locked in a rear naked choke. But the third fighter fought dirty. While Victor's men held her, Dmitri took a metal pipe to her right arm, shattering the bone with a crack that echoed through the warehouse. The crowd cheered. Victor smiled. They thought they'd neutralized the threat. They were wrong. Maya's instructors had taught her to fight through pain, to compartmentalize, to function when her body screamed at her to stop. More importantly, they trained her in asymmetric combat and ambidextrous fighting because in war, you didn't get to choose which arm got injured. Every SEAL learned to fight equally well with both hands. The 3 men circled her now, thinking they were predators closing in on wounded prey. Dmitri cracked his knuckles. A second man, built like a refrigerator, grinned. The third bounced on his toes. Victor watched from the side, already counting his money. None of them saw what was coming. Maya let them think she was finished. Dmitri reached for her first, overconfident and sloppy. Maya's left hand shot out like a striking snake, catching him in the throat. He stumbled back, choking. The refrigerator threw a haymaker. Maya dropped low, swept his legs, then drove her left elbow into his solar plexus as he fell. The air exploded from his lungs. The third fighter hesitated. Maya didn't give him time to think. She closed the distance, using her broken arm as a distraction while her left fist crashed into his jaw with 8 years of combat training behind it. He went down hard. But what happened next? This is the moment that defines who Maya really is. Keep watching, because this is where courage becomes something more. Dmitri had recovered, rage replacing confidence. He pulled a knife and lunged at Maya's chest. She sidestepped, caught his wrist with her left hand, and used his momentum to drive him into the concrete post. The knife clattered away. Before he could recover, Maya had him in a one-armed guillotine choke, her left arm locked around his neck with mechanical precision. His face turned purple, then he went limp. The warehouse went silent. Maya released Dmitri and turned to Victor, her broken arm still hanging useless, her left hand ready. Blood and sweat covered her face, but her eyes were clear and cold. "Where is my sister?" Victor stared at her, and for the first time, real fear crossed his face. He'd sent 3 trained fighters against what he thought was a wounded woman, and she'd dismantled them with one arm. His hand moved toward his jacket, but Maya was faster. She crossed the distance in a heartbeat, her left hand gripping his collar. "Last chance," she said quietly. "Where is Emily?" Victor's bravado crumbled. He gave her an address, a shipping container at the port, a timeline. Maya memorized every detail, then struck him once, dropping him unconscious. She turned to the crowd of criminals. "Anyone tries to follow me, you'll end up like them." Anyone touches those women in the basement before the police arrive, and I'll come back." Nobody moved. Maya walked out, pulled out her phone with her left hand, and called the police and FBI. She gave them everything they needed, then drove to the port, her broken arm screaming with every bump, her focus absolute. She found Emily in a shipping container with 6 other terrified women, all scheduled to disappear in the morning. The rescue made national news, though Maya's name never appeared in any report. That was fine with her. SEALs didn't operate for glory. They operated to complete the mission, and her mission was saving her sister. 3 months later, Maya sat in a hospital waiting room, her right arm healed, watching Emily laugh with the trauma counselor. Viktor Kozlov and his organization were in federal custody facing life sentences. The rescued women were getting help, and Maya had learned something she'd always known but never quite believed until that night. Strength isn't about having 2 good arms or fair odds. Strength is about refusing to quit when everything says you should. It's about adapting, overcoming, and fighting through the impossible because someone you love needs you. Maya won that fight with 1 arm not because she was superhuman, but because she was human in the best possible way. She loved her sister more than she feared pain. She valued justice more than safety. And she understood that sometimes the right thing is also the hardest thing. Emily looked over and smiled, and in that smile, Maya saw everything that mattered. Every broken bone was worth it. Every drop of blood was worth it. Because her sister was safe. Because justice was served. Because when it mattered most, she hadn't quit. This story isn't just about a Navy SEAL winning a fight with a broken arm. It's about all of us, about the battles we face when life breaks us, when the odds seem impossible, when we have every reason to quit but one reason to keep going. Maya's strength lives in all of us, waiting to be called upon when someone we love needs us. Think about the people who would fight with 1 arm for you. Think about who you'd fight for. And if this story reminded you that we're all capable of more than we believe, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Sometimes the most powerful weapon we have isn't strength or skill, it's refusing to quit on the people who matter. Thank you for listening to Maya's story, and remember, you're stronger than you think, especially when it matters most.